Hi guys, okay, so I'm super excited to finally do this video for you guys. I want to give you guys an insight into what it's like being hearing impaired and having to communicate with people who are wearing masks. Stay tuned. Hi, this is Brittany and you're watching Locked Queen Bee. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and also click on the bell so that you get notifications whenever I upload a new video. Alrighty, let's go ahead and jump into it. So I'm super excited about doing this video. This is a video that I've been wanting to do for a long time, basically since the pandemic began. And what this is going to be about is what it's like to be hearing impaired, having to interact with someone who is wearing a mask, a face covering over their mouth, and prevents lip reading. So let me talk about my experience with people wearing masks prior to the pandemic. So when I had to interact with people who were wearing masks prior to the pandemic, it was more so only when I went to the dentist. So the hygienist, that person usually wore a mask when they were working with your mouth and all of that. And so for me, that was very difficult because I needed to be able to read lips in order to kind of pick up whatever I missed from listening with my ears. And so usually when I was at the dentist, what I would just say to them and say, you know, I have a hearing loss. I basically can't hear what you're saying when you're wearing a mask because I can't read your lips and all of that. And so what they would do is like work on my teeth a little bit. If they wanted to ask a question or say something, they would stop working on my teeth, pull their mask down, say something. We would go back and forth. They would put the mask back on and then continue working on my teeth. So it took a little bit longer probably with my appointments when I was at the dentist, just because there was that communication barrier and we both had to kind of navigate that. And so thankfully that was my only experience dealing with people. And so when it became more widespread, everybody was wearing a mask. That's when it became really problematic, stressful, and overwhelming. So I've had a few situations where I've had to leave my house to wear a mask and I have to interact with people. So for example, if I'm running in, I'm going to Walgreens or whatever, usually there's people that I know or speak to on my way to these local spots around my neighborhood. And so even that without a mask is kind of stressful for me because I have anxiety and I sometimes anticipate having to talk to somebody if I run into them, and it just creates anxiety within me. And so when I interact with that person, I'm already in like a negative state about it. And so sometimes the interaction goes better than I was expecting, or sometimes it goes exactly how I was expecting. And so I would see those people with masks on and I have no idea what they're saying, so I have to tell them like, hey, you know, I can't hear you, and then kind of like keep it moving. Like for me, I would want to keep the interaction short instead of like trying to actually have a conversation with them, because there's a lot more repeating and all of that, and it's just stressful. And so that's what it's like interacting with people that I know around my neighborhood. When I had to go to the urgent care, I just straight up told the doctor who was seeing me when she came into the examination room that, hey, you know, I'm hearing impaired. I'm not going to be able to understand what you're saying. You're going to have to put your mask down. And so she didn't like smile or anything. She was just kind of like, oh. And then she made sure to stay 6 feet away from me and pulled down her mask and was communicating with me. And I'm glad that she did that, because if she wasn't willing to pull down her mask so that I could understand her, then it was obviously going to make the visit even more stressful for me than it already was. And so I really don't like going to places where I normally would order food. Like for example, this is coffee, not food. But when I go to Dunkin', I would usually order on the app. But sometimes if the app wasn't working or whatever, you would have to go to the register. And so I can never really understand people anyway when I go to Dunkin'. Nothing against the people who are working at Dunkin'. It's just harder for me to understand people, especially if you have an accent or if you if English is not your first language, whatever. So that was stressful because one, there's a huge glass. The people aren't really speaking super loud. They're speaking at their normal volume, but I can't really hear that. And so that was just really stressful for me, just trying to order a drink in person at Dunkin'. And so if I can, I definitely order whatever I can on the app. Just go and pick it up. There may even be some communication issues with me picking up something that I ordered on the app. So for example, if I were to order something on the app at Starbucks, and for whatever reason they say, hey Brittany, your drink is ready, and they're wearing a mask, I'm not gonna know that they're talking to me and telling me my drink is ready, you know what I mean? And so unless I recognize the drink, or if nobody else goes to get that drink, I may go up and look and see if it says Brittany. So even things like that, I'm ordering through the app, but I still have some communication with the people at whatever establishment I'm going to. That can still be stressful. And so even when I'm walking my dog with my mom and my sister, they're obviously communicating back and forth to each other. They can hear each other fine with no problem. For me, it's a little more frustrating because one, we're outside, it's noisy, I can't really hear you guys anyway, and then on top of that, I can't see your lips to read your lips. I can't see your mouth to read your lips, and so that's frustrating. So usually, like, my mom and my sister, they'll pull their mask down, repeat whatever they said, and then we'll kind of have a conversation and then go about our business. And so having to interact with people who are wearing a mask is super, super difficult. My mom, because she's like very overprotective and motherly and all of that, when the pandemic first happened, she looked at different types of face masks that you could wear, and so she came across this face mask that basically had clear plastic over the mouth, and that's for lip reading. I was like, I'm not wearing that, nobody's gonna wear that. And so I really haven't seen anybody wearing that. The only person who was wearing that was my audiologist, and that's obviously because all of the people that she worked with have a hearing loss, so it makes perfect sense for her to wear something like that. And so I went to see her, and I noticed that she had that type of face mask on, and obviously it made our appointment so much easier. I didn't have that face mask on. I had like the regular blue medical one, or the black one. I wear the black one now. And so my audiologist, she does wear hearing aids, so I don't know if she had any trouble hearing me, and obviously she couldn't rely on lip reading because I wasn't wearing the same type of mask that she was wearing. And so back then I didn't really think about that, but now that I'm telling this story, I kind of feel bad, because if she wasn't able to understand me and it was because of the mask, I didn't have like that kind of compassion towards her or whatever to try to wear that type of mask to that appointment. So now I feel kind of bad about it. The other times that I interact with people who are wearing a mask, there's a guy at the supermarket that I go to who is hearing impaired, and he signs, so it's not, he may need to read lips, so people having their mouths covered, plus him not being able to hear, is probably a little bit more difficult than I would imagine it is for me, because he can't rely on his ears because he can't hear probably, and then if he can't lip read, what is he supposed to do? And he signs, but not everybody knows sign language, so that makes it incredibly more difficult, I think, because I know a little bit of sign language, and I was trying to communicate with him with like the very little bit that I know, and all he could basically see of my face was my eyes and my eyebrows. And so when you're signing, your facial expressions are very important. And so I was wondering when I was talking to him, like how much that impacted the conversation that he was trying to have with me, because it was already stressful because I don't know sign as well as he does. On top of that, I felt like my facial expressions could kind of convey to him what I was trying to say, and then he could figure out like how to help me sign what I wanted to sign or whatever. But with him not being able to see all of my face, I think that hindered the interaction a little bit. And so even just me trying to communicate with him in sign language, which I'm not good at, is stressful. And then having a mask on top of that is even more stressful, because I feel like I'm not able to get my whole message across to him without being able to use my facial expressions and all of that. So yeah. And then there's also another time where I went to Chipotle, and Chipotle is good because they have that clear partition, however you say it, that is kind of blocking, is kind of like a barrier between the customer and the person serving the food, which is kind of a good thing and a bad thing. So I went to Chipotle, they had that up, but people were still wearing the mask, and obviously I don't know what they're saying, and so it was stressful for me because I could have ordered on the app, but I wanted to order in person because I wanted to like control the portions of the different items that they gave me. And so I remember like the first person, they warm up your tortilla, they fill up your bowl, your burrito with like the rice, the beans, and the meat, and then they pass it off to somebody else who does the other stuff. And so when they passed it off to the other person, she was like, she said whatever she said. I had no idea what she was saying. And so what I try to do is I know that they can hear me, and this is something that my mom always said to me. She said, you can't hear us, but we can hear you, so just make sure you communicate clearly. And so I try to communicate to that person that I wanted X, Y, and Z on the side. And then she kept asking me questions. I was like, I don't know what you're saying, I have a hearing loss. And so she tried to repeat herself, and I still didn't know what she was saying. And so I just had to like more assertively say what I wanted and hope that she understood and kind of like left it at that. But that was stressful because I already have a difficult time communicating with you without a mask, and then when you have masks in play, that just makes it even more stressful. So I just wanted to shed light on what that experience is like, being a hearing impaired person or a deaf person who has to interact with people who have masks. And I'm not sure what the ideal solution is to that. I don't know if face masks with the plastic covering over the mouth is more expensive or anything like that. I don't know how many people would be open to wearing that type of mask, but I definitely think that there needs to be some type of awareness raised about this issue because it is a huge problem. So I think that like I was talking about at Chipotle and that glass partition that they have, they could easily have a sign up there that says, hey, are you hearing impaired? Hey, do you have a hearing loss? Let us know that you need to lip read and we can pull down our mask. I saw a sign like that online somewhere. I don't know what restaurant it was for, but I really like that they put thought into that because masks do impact a lot of people when it comes to communicating. Even people who have normal hearing may have trouble interacting with someone who's wearing a mask just because your mask blocks some of the sound a little bit. And so I'm not sure what an ideal solution is to all of this. I think that just raising awareness, sharing your stories if you are hearing impaired, sharing what it's like for you in a world where you already have trouble communicating and have trouble hearing, and then you just have this additional barrier that prevents you from being able to communicate as effectively as you would want. And so yeah, hopefully all of this has been helpful for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing my stories about this, and I hope that you share these stories with your friends and that you try to incorporate some of this into your daily routines when you are out and about and interacting with other people. If you have any questions or comments for me, definitely leave them in the comment section below, and thanks for watching. Bye guys.